Thanks very much for having us, Alan. Thanks for the short notice. I'm going to talk a little bit about, well, I'll introduce Evercam first and then talk a little bit about where we're at with Evercam Copilot. We have been, just to give you a bit of background on Evercam, Irish founded company. We started building software for cameras about 14 years ago, and it took us a few years of trying out different product market fits that didn't really work until we realized the construction industry was where it was at. With all of, a bit like the John's takeaways there, all of those things relate to being able to show people what's happening on their site, what has happened on their site, and all about the sort of dispute avoidance and dispute resolution. The GIF that's up there is just a really nice example of the core of what Evercam does, which is it's two images, one is overlaid over the other, and this single GIF proved where those services were running underneath a data center in Europe after a dispute with a groundworks contractor. And it looks really simple, and on the face of it is, but you can only do it if you have put the camera in the right place and recorded the entire project from start to finish, and then build some tools to provide both images for that. So that's where our sort of success has been over the years. That the hard part has been learning how to put cameras on cranes, put cameras on building sites, put cameras on neighboring buildings, keep them working, have enough data to record everything, store the data in the right place, and then knowing that most of our customers, to solve their problems, will not need to look at 99.9% of those images, but the one they do need to find is the one that's going to solve that large dispute for them. So I'm saying we're all around the world now. Our core product is all that recording, and we made a few good decisions early, which at the time were bonkers and cost us a lot of heartache and time and money. My business partner Marco was very insistent that we should record everything, full frame rate, full project, all the time, even though that was totally overkill and none of our competitors around the world were doing it. We said, right, we'll do it. And over time, it eventually started making sense. We realized computer vision is there to start gathering data from those images, from that video. And even still, we were gathering a lot of data and we were starting to recognize things on sites and everything, but it was still not useful. It was still too much data to give to a client. That if you're looking at the activity of particular machinery on site, the activity of people, it was just very hard to turn that data into things they could use. And also because the accuracy levels weren't there that you could feed it straight into payment systems or spreadsheets or wherever you would have your actual data of people coming through a turnstile or getting data from telematics or whatever. So where we've evolved a little bit is our core product was always the fixed position, always on camera, and we have integrated them BIM models. We have our own. We can integrate with Drone Deploy and the other drone platforms, or we also have our own, which feeds into the dashboard, and then likewise with 360. We have our own capture with the 360 cameras, or feeds into the dashboard, or we can integrate third parties. And then the gate report. I'll show you the gate report in a couple of minutes. And what's interesting about that is it was the first time we turned the computer vision plus always on camera and the data into an actual report that just feeds out what vehicles are coming through the gate and photos of them and categorizing them into what types of vehicles they are. Again, just trying to turn it into one problem we sat down with our customers and saw they were trying to solve with Evercam was looking back over contaminated soil leaving the site, trying to match that with what they were being charged and looking at every single load and deciding what, solving their disputes that way. And again, that we couldn't build a product for every single situation like that. That was the one we sort of sat down with customers and they said, if this works, we will pay for it. And it's not quite the same when it comes to people counting, when it comes to other kind of subtler areas where we know the camera is gathering data, but is it useful enough to turn into a product or not? That's what's been in the back of our minds for a long time. While the core product works and solves problems, a lot of what we're doing with the core product is finding ways to present it like that initial GIF of just, if you can solve a problem with two images, with two JPEGs, then that's the way to solve it. And sometimes it's not the right way to solve it. Sometimes people are trying to solve a problem with a camera when it should be solved with telematics, or it should be solved with a Bluetooth or LTE device or something. that it's kind of our job to stand back and advise the customer as to the best value, most accurate way to solve their problem. And I think standing back long enough doing that allowed us to wait for AI to get good enough to give them real answers. So just where we're at the moment is the overall platform. Our prime customers at the moment are project owners. And where we're at kind of currently is the idea that you have all your other data within your project management platforms and everything, and you can match an image to any of that data. So that's there already. You just get a timestamp, you go find the image, you find out if the data from your other platforms matches it. But again, you're doing that with a human. Where we are going with it is that we're gathering all the data, and then the UI for querying that data is AI, is natural language question. And that's what I'm just going to show you a bit about now. It's by no means, it's very much a work in progress. And what we're learning at the moment with our customers is where it can provide value and how it can provide value, and where we should slow down. So again, the idea here is again, just being able to ask it intelligent questions. I mean, being given the data, not just the data that says, here's your answer, but here's your answer, here's a link to that piece of video, you tell us if it's correct or not. So we're not, this is never going to be 100% right. And the more our customers can sit down with us and we watch them asking questions, we watch them react to the answers, and we try to determine whether or not the data we're giving them back is going to be useful and actionable or not. And if not, are they asked, do they have enough data, or are they asking the right questions or whatever? So again, this is our sort of process at the moment. So yeah, the vision there is that it again goes back to what John was saying there earlier. It's spotting things before they become a bigger problem. It's automatically feeding into all that reporting process. Another thing we learned at the cross-project trends, again, this took us a while to learn, and we learned it more from our project owner customers than we did from our main contractor customers. And that's when we sat down with chip manufacturers, or with Siemens Energy was another one, and sat down with how they were using it on one project. We realized they were spending a lot of time looking at a previous project where they had tackled the same challenges. So they're looking at a different project from a year ago where they built the same thing. And they're looking at what worked, what didn't work. They're using it to make little clips, make little videos, show people best practice, show people things that could be avoided, or pitfalls or problems that could be avoided. And again, different contractor, different subcontractor, different team, but they're showing, here's what we learned from the last 3 times we did this. This is now our best practice. And we've seen that on the individual level as well on a project, where if you can learn anything from, whatever you can learn on floor 2 of a project, if you can apply a little bit of efficiency there, a little bit safer, a little bit faster, a little bit cheaper, to do it from floor 2 to 15, we've done our job. We've done our job well. And what we're finding with the co-pilot questioning is it's not just about what's different now, or what can we improve from a concrete pour, from man hours, or from safety on floor 2 to 10 or 2 to 15. It's also, how did we tackle this last year when the weather was worse? How did it change when the schools opened up and the traffic got worse? How did it change with the availability of steel, or whatever it was? That they will know those variables, and they'll be able to ask it questions like that couldn't previously be asked based on the data they had. So again, how we're showing it there is just basically the various different bits of activity. This is our previous gate report. Right? It was, the idea was, we started by hoping we could solve everything with just a camera looking down over the vehicles. We learned quickly that you need that, plus you need the license plate as the unique identifier. We also learned that our customers did, some did and some didn't, and some couldn't in countries, learn or keep the database of who your subcontractors are based on their license plates. It was isolating problems and other simple things, like what time did the first vehicle come through the gate at? The first non-road vehicle come through the gate at gives you an indicator when you start. when did the last one leave, indicator of your working hours. But that output was your PDF or your Excel, and you're the right person looking at it, took a bit of time, feeding it into different systems. And what we're trying, if you can picture the difference between those types of questions that you ask with the Excel sheet of show me all the concrete trucks versus just asking it. It's just popping in and asking how many concrete trucks have come through the gate this month. And whatever else is going on in your project, you have a pretty good idea of whether you're on schedule or not based on how many concrete trucks came through. You have a pretty good idea whether you're, being charged correctly based on what left. And if you can spin up a very quick look at every single vehicle that left that was being charged for waste or contaminated soil or whatever. The smarter bits then about the average time it took to unload steel coming through the gate. Now again, you can just look at the trucks that had steel versus them coming in full, them leaving empty, or we can start getting clever and actually watch the cranes unloading, recognizing what is steel, how long it takes to be unloaded. All of these things, again, the customers have to sit down with us and tell us that it's worth their while. And what we very often find is they don't have to do it for the whole project. They just have to figure out at the beginning or the first signs of a problem, what's wrong with that what's wrong with that workflow, what's wrong with that provider, what's wrong with that crane communications, and they nip it in the bud. They have to make a clip and send it to the relevant people and say, here's the right way to do that. Or they change their traffic plan or their parking area or whatever. And other simple reports showing the first and last vehicle in and out every day that week. Again, that's where previous to having any sort of AI component or anything too clever, we were solving that type of problem with single images. We had an early construction customer of ours who was very old school, very non-tech construction company owner. We set him up with, he didn't even want a registration for Evercam, but he knew his guys were using it. We set him up with an image that went to his phone from 6 different sites. One image went to him at 8 a.m. from all the sites. Another one went to him at 6 p.m. from all the sites. Everybody who worked for him knew that if your site wasn't open and clean and working at 8 a.m., he was driving to you first. And if it wasn't closed and clean at 6 p.m., he was on the phone saying, why not? So it was a single JPEG a couple times a day, and it changed human behavior for a few hundred people. And everybody knew, and again, it's knowing the consequences of that being shared that changed the behavior of all the people on the site. So this is a little bit like that. It's with people on site knowing if I do this well, it'll be recognized and noticed and turned into this good news story, and I'm a hero, and it's saved the whole company loads by finding a nice efficiency. If I make a mess of this, Evercam will politely blur out my face, but it's going to turn into a video anyway, and everyone will probably know who made the mistake. And I suppose that's where it comes to the safety element. Safety is really tricky. Everybody wants, show me everybody who's not wearing their gloves, show me everyone who's not wearing their glasses, show me everyone who's not wearing their hard hat. And it's just really, really difficult. And it's, I suppose, what we've been learning is that you can have all the recordings from a load of different cameras on a site. This site in question is actually for OVL building the new terminal in JFK Airport. It's our test project for Copilot. And again, we split what we were trying to do between safety and progress management. And progress management is lovely. It's really straightforward. Is the steel frame up or not? Yes or no? Great. Does it match the BIM model? Yes or no? Great. How many trucks came through? All really straightforward, non-human questions. Such. The safety thing then is just trickier. If you ask the question to our Copilot of, have you observed any health and safety incidents last week? You're going to get a few pages of answers, and it's going to be maybe 60% to 70% good answers, and some not false positives or some false negatives, or it'll say what was a safety risk that actually wasn't. It's really difficult to determine where all the safety rules apply without overcomplicating what we're feeding into the system. So if instead we actually feed in the rules, so the difference between asking the system, were there any health and safety breaches last week? The difference between that and actually feeding in the OSHA rules plus the site health and safety rules and asking the question, based on the rules we have input for this site, can you identify any clear breaches of these rules between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. yesterday? And what you're going to get there is a much more accurate result of your rules state that there should be a harness worn in this area, and there wasn't. Your rules state that there shouldn't be anyone on the site before 7, and there was. And that's where it's starting to get better, but it's still really hard to get what you'd call, what you'd spin up into a safety report. However, what you can do is you can ask it that question and say, can I have the results in a Procore safety report format, and then go in and edit them. So if we're not giving you the full 100% accurate results, but we're taking half an hour off your day by giving you a load of results, and you go in and our systems learns by what you tell us is good data and what you tell us is bad data, then we're on the right track. But it's very far from it being like a product you can just switch on and it's going to give you loads of accurate results. I was toying with whether I'd do a live demo or just show you this, but I think I might just show you this for good measure. Again, this is just asking it for a safety report. The system is going through, and what's nice there is it's giving you what it's reading as a health and safety incident, but each of those blue links is just a link straight to that piece of the video. So it's giving you some answers, but it's up to the client to go and double check if that's good data or not. Out of interest, one of our health and safety, one of our customers on a data center in Europe, they asked us for the same thing. They really wanted an alert they wanted to use clever AI to tell when people were on site without their PPE, the usual question. And again, in Germany, you do not want to be recording people's faces and creating a database of people who weren't wearing their PPE or anything to do with which subcontractor it was or anything like that. And we built a bespoke system for them that just had a blue flashing light and a sound alarm on it at the far side of the turnstile. And that was it. No recordings. It didn't record anybody. It looked at the people coming through, and if they weren't wearing their PPE, the blue thing flashed and the little alarm went off. There wasn't even anybody taking their name. It was just, everybody knows that I'm walking through that tomorrow, I'm not having the blue light go off. Again, if you can change behavior like that, then do. Don't try to be too clever. And again, few more examples like that. This one here is another query from a customer about crane activity. And again, we were trying with another company, the customer in the States as well. We had a customer who was fully convinced he had 5 cranes and that he only had 3 crane drivers because he never saw all 5 moving at the same time. Whether he was right or not doesn't matter. But again, this is Evercam looking at the cranes and saying if they're operational or not, and trying to get better at saying what they're doing. Again, you'd look at that data and there should be telematics to do that. Like there should be telematics to say what the vehicles on site are doing, and we should be able to get that data, or the client should be able to get that data. Likewise, in the same way that the gate report shouldn't have existed as a product if there was good telematics and GPS in all those trucks, and there wasn't. So again, this is where we're going from just the image of the site to the image with all of everything being tracked with the chart underneath of everything, and then the ability to break down what you care about and all the different people with different responsibilities on the site, safety, productivity, people paying the bills, can go in and check what they care about. And that just brings me to kind of a conclusion, but I suppose there's the use case description and then trying to get the right prompt for it. And for us, there's the idea of putting up the P6 schedule and then asking where you are in relation to the P6 schedule. Makes way more sense than asking what progress was made last week. And then the reason I have there are the lights on is that one of our customers, again, trialing it on a large data center project with various different halls. And he needed to know when people were working in certain areas. And we were going through the motions of, have we seen people go in? Are there vehicles outside? What's going on? And it took from sitting down with him and actually being on site for a few hours. If the lights aren't on in there, nobody's working. It was that simple. It came down to him being billed 4 times when the lights were off. And if there was nobody in there, the lights had to be off. And asking the system, are the lights on or off, is way simpler than asking how many people are in there and what are they doing. So again, trying to pull it back to the human who needs the data, and can we turn that into a simple question to give actionable data? And it'll get better at answering complex questions, but for now, a lot of the job is sitting down and trying to find simple questions to get the actionable data. So that's us.